Hello everybody and welcome back. Tonight I'm going to be reading Mike's Werewolf Journal, and at the end of that Mike's going to be joining me online and I'm going to ask him some questions, some more in-depth details for you. So here we go. Now I go all the way back to May, as many of you know I've been off, so it's quite a long journal, but I think you'll enjoy it. Mike says he goes to, this journal covers log 2 field trips done over the last 2 weeks, and that's the 18th of the 5th. And I presume he's in his normal area, training area. Yeah, he says some activity in what I used to call Zone 2, the training area. I think it might be wild man and not the usual suspects. There are lots of tree sign, and I took some photos of this, and I saw 3 deer. But I also saw something else, of which I'm not sure. Firstly, I heard some sounds to my left, and this is when I saw the deer. So I didn't think anything else of it. But a few minutes later, there was sound of something moving to my left, and it wasn't deer, so I stopped. I knelt down, and about 50 metres to my front was a dark shape, using the cover of the trees and shadow cast by the canopy of the tree. The shape was a lot darker than the tree, but I couldn't make it out. So I decided to move towards it, during which time it moved off to the right and disappeared back into cover. I walked over to the area where it had been, but I couldn't see a trail of where it had retreated to or gone. During that whole time, the birds kept singing, which reassured me. So maybe it was a wild man and not my usual furry friends. And on the 24th of the 5th, Mike went out and he says, today I visited the rear section of Nani Woods, Zone 2. This is where I had seen the figure or shape that used the shadows to hide and move off to the right on the 18th, as we just previously mentioned. Well, today's visit had a big surprise for me. Trees were just piled on top of one another, almost like a balancing act. Really quite bizarre sight to see. I found 2 dens, and at least one of these dens was in current use. I did my usual sit down and waited 15 to 20 minutes, and the birds slowly went quiet. Sure enough, I started to have the feeling of being watched from my front and to my left. Normally I feel nervous or have a slight case of the jitters, but today I felt safe. Not a false sense of safety, but really safe. I'm not sure why. I stayed sat down for a good 40 minutes or so, but after a while I decided it was time for home. Overall, it was a really good afternoon. And then on the 1st of July, Mike goes back to Nani Woods. And it's a nice day. He's there at 10:25 in the morning. And he says, today was the first proper field trip in about 2 weeks. I had, over the previous 2 weeks, made some quick trips while driving between Reading and Oxford. Well, today, no sooner as I'd got out of the car and made my first steps into the woods, I had a stone thrown at me. Because not far from the lay-by, I found a new structure. Not a living type structure or anything like that. It was a bunch of green tree branches, and they'd been arranged into a pyramid shape. As I stepped near it, I had another stone thrown at me. It missed, but it made me walk away, and as I did, I heard heavy footsteps behind me. I turned around and I could not see anything. I waited, but nothing caught my eye, so I proceeded to walk on into the wood. After some time, I decided to sit down and pour some coffee and wait. I sat and waited for about 20 minutes and nothing happened. So as I was packing up, I turned to my left, and sure enough, running in between the trees was my new friend. Well, I hope so. It was the juvenile werewolf, running low to the ground and moving at speed. He was about 20 metres off to my left, but he was gone in quick time. But his colour was black all over. And between 11:46 hours and 12:17 hours, I made some quick stops at Zone 1 and Zone 3, and I did find a dead deer, which had clearly been run over, but nothing from the woods had a nibble. But it stank for sure, so something they'd left it alone. And then on the 6th of August, Mike goes back to Nani Woods, and he says, today I did what I call a block search of Zone 2. I basically set out a grid and I walked a basic pattern and I noted what I found in that area. And this involved 3 stops of roughly 10 to 15 minute durations. The first and third stops yielded no results, but the second stop had some partial results. About 5 deer showed up, and I could hear some sounds of 2 other entities approaching the deer from a different direction. I took some quick photos waiting for something to happen, but something made the deer scatter and nothing else happened, which was a letdown. I made 2 quick stops in 2 other areas of Nani Woods just to check out for anything new or out of interest, and I found 2 new tree logs dumped in front of the birthing den. I finished this search by 12:30 and I decided to call it a day and return home. Mike then heads for the Forest of Dean, we have accounts in the Forest of Dean, and he says, I started at the area at a place called Dilt Hospital area, and with me on this trip was my sister. This area is clearly inhabited by wildmen. This area had a lot of tree sign, and again I took some photos. Anybody interested in seeing the photos, by the way, there's a link in the description below and it will take you to the website article, and all of the photos can be found there. The second area we searched was around Cannock. Here we found some dens and took some photographs of those. Later on during the afternoon we returned to the Dilt Hospital area where my sister remembered seeing some dens, and after some time we found them and took some photos of these. I can only assume the area we covered, roughly 90 miles. We did 4 stops, and that area had wildman activity in it in all of the stops. So on the 14th of the 8th, they head off to Thetford Forest, and they go to the Limpid area. And the areas between Limpid and Stanter MOD training grounds, and as we know, military defence training ground, is fantastic for sightings. So Mike says, I left Reading at 4:30 in the morning and arrived in Limpid at 7:23. I started my search about 7:30. The first area had a lot of sign implying wildmen, and it was during this period that I had a feeling I was being watched on at least 2 occasions, so my nerves were pretty pumped. And it was some time after, while walking along the pathway, that a black German Shepherd dog came running around the corner, which took me completely by surprise and made me jump. The dog was soon followed by the owner, who wasn't exactly sympathetic towards my nervous state. So a few robust words were exchanged, and then the situation nearly went south. But today I thought was not the day any further silliness, so I said sorry and we went on our way and returned to my car and decided to find another area to search. If you're out there, people, put your dogs on leads. The second search area commenced at 8:47 and finished at 9:53. That was me saying put your dogs on the lead, by the way, not mine. Now, this was really odd. Firstly, near the steel barrier leading onto the dirt road, there was a pile of apples laid out for someone or something. In this area again, there was a lot of tree sign. And I thought at one point I might actually bump into a wildman. But I couldn't see anything. There was a lot of noise, etc. going on though. So after some time searching and following every sound to my right, I decided to head back to the car. While I sat in the car drinking coffee, something landed on the top of my car and rolled down the bonnet, and I jumped with fright. I looked to my rear view mirrors and I couldn't see anything. So again, I thought it best to move on and find another spot. The third spot commenced at 10:14 and completed at 10:49. I was opposite some Ministry of Defence land with plenty of keep out signs, so I parked up, and as I got out I found 4 cut meat joints of some type of animal. But again I thought, why would anyone leave large joints of bone out near a pathway that led into a part of the forest, just like the apples? I took some photos of the bone joints and I searched that area again, and a lot of tree sign there implying wildmen. I bumped into another guy walking his dogs, but this chap was a lot friendlier than the other guy. I asked if he had ever seen anything out of the ordinary, but he replied no, and we parted ways. The last area I searched commenced at 11:04 and completed at 11:29, and it was the opposite side of the first wooded area I searched, and here there were some interesting sights. Firstly, I found a den which looked similar to the birthing dens back in Nani Woods, and a den which didn't look like any other den I'd found back. It didn't look like the other dens I found back in the Forest of Dean. I also found a large pile of bodily waste which didn't look like anything unusual, and I'd found something similar in Nani Woods some months back. The birthing den seemed to have a perimeter fence of sort of like logs laid out at angles to each other, almost squared off, and the left and right sides with a front section of logs as well. I found another den as well while on my way back to the car, and I took some photos and I left Thetford. Then Mike goes to Cannock Chase, and most of you will know Cannock Chase, and one of the sighting areas there is a German cemetery. And Mike went there on the 16th of August, and he says, I left Reading at 5:30 for the so-called Mecca of UK werewolf sightings, Cannock Chase, and the area around the German military cemetery. Now, I arrived at 7:58, and on the right side of the approach road to the cemetery, there was a den blatantly built just right off the road in plain sight. So, of course, I parked up and took some photos. So, I'm off to a good start already. I walked around the cemetery and I noticed the trees at the back of the cemetery, and there were signs of activity. So, after an hour, I headed back to the car and I had a cuppa, as you do, and I sat there in the car. A pair of pointed ears popped up next to a tree near the car park. So I'm looking very hard, and sure enough, it has pointed ears. So I took some photos and I offered the little guy a sandwich, but the little guy didn't move. So I decided to get out and search for it. Anyway, he was gone. I looked around, but I couldn't see the little guy. The furry creature was a juvenile with a canine head. Anyway, I moved up to another location at the Aspen car park, and I searched both sides of the road now. Opposite the car park is a heavily wooded area, and I followed a dirt road all the way to the back where it forked off, left and right. So I followed the right side of the dirt road, which skirted a quarry of sorts. Now this had my nerves on edge, and my brain was saying, don't go down this section of the road. So I turned around and walked back up to the car park. I took some photos, and later on, when I was checking my photos for the day, I found something looking at me from in between the trees. I put this trip down as a scouting trip because even though I visited for 2 hours, I got results, and lots of results in a short time. So maybe a longer visit is required because I considered this a very good day indeed. And then the next part of the Werewolf Journal is the 11th of October, and Mike's back in Nani Woods. And he says, I've not seen this particular area of Nani Woods for a few weeks now. It's covered in ivy dens and is a main habitation point for my furry friends, and can be very busy and a very nervous place to be, to say the least. So today was a quick visit. A lot of the old dens are still around, with some new ones, and at the beginning I felt very nervous, but after some time I felt okay. I had the sense that I was being followed by something on my right as I walked around the area, and when I left as well. I took some photos which I examined when I got back home, and to my surprise I found 2 young werewolves in a den looking back at me in the camera. I also noticed a large head looking back at me from the opposite side of the footpath where I found this den with the young ones. Maybe she was the one following me around. On the 12th of the 10th I made a quick trip to the woods, and I took some Tesco smoky bacon slices and went to the den and left them outside and left. I didn't stay around to see if they'd eaten them or anything. So the next time we go up there, it's the 20th of the 10th, so 8 days has passed. And he said, today I'm taking some M&S chicken slices. I thought I would go up market, not much, but you know, you never know if Tesco smoky bacon did the job or not. So another caution I took was to arrive and sit in the car for 5 minutes with the door open so that they could catch my scent, so they would know it was me. Today was a short and sharp trip, and as it turned out, it was for the best. I went up to the den, and yes, they were inside, and I took some photos, and again, the mother was sat across in the opposite tree line, in a more subtle manner. I unpacked the chicken slices and threw them at the entrance of the den. I took some photos, and upon inspection, one of the cubs was a little camera shy, but another decided to do a pose which was interesting. Later, when I got home, in a close-up, I noticed another one sat behind the den in the tree. It was like an ivy den within the tree line. And after some time, I decided to leave, but only after I was snorted at very loudly, which made me jump. The snort wasn't or didn't seem angry or to be in anger, just disapproval, really, that I was feeding them, and it seemed to me that Mum was making it known that it was her job to do so, and I was a little bit too close. That's how I would describe the snort. So this year I can say that I've encountered in Zone 3 2 adults, 1 cub, and in Zone 2 2 adults and 2 cubs, for a total of 7 werewolves. In 2017, I would say I'm at the same number, maybe 8 in total. So overall, in 2017 and so far in 2018, I can say Nani Woods is a breeding area and a place of habituation. These cubs I saw recently, it seems, were born later after the spring. I noticed this last year as if the adults were taking turns. Some cubs were born in the spring, and then some are being born very late summer, early autumn, almost as if they were taking turns. And to be honest, I can't provide a definite answer, only a guess, which I assume is to do with food supply. Well, fortunately, Mike's with me tonight, so we can ask him a number of questions, and we'll talk about family time and birthing and what people think is happening. So we'll go over to Mike now. Hello, Mike. We just done an update of the journal, and the listeners have had a listen to that. And if you remember when me and you last chatted, it was around about May time, and you were off to, is it Nani Woods, the training area? Area 2? And if I remember correctly, that was well, I'm going to let you say what happened. It was sounds off into the bushes. I think we were talking about the last time that we spoke. And then, if you don't mind, can you tell us what happened? Just catch us up really on the day in question.
Well, from sort of late June when I was in Nani Woods.
Yeah.
I mean, basically going up to June, that's when I had the juveniles, some of the wolves running around, and there's a sort of cross-section of pathway, sort of like a cross-junction.
Yeah.
This is where I took pictures of the sort of 4-foot one trying to sort of like what I would call ghosting, sort of trying to hide itself, camouflage itself, or like, a full predator. Where it just makes itself invisible. And I'd say I had sort of, on one of the pictures I took, I thought I had the parents on the very far side. And it's only recently that I found where one of them is literally, it's about 12 foot tall on the picture, if you look at it, from the ground up. Even though I've done a close-up, but it was right in front of me. But I had a sort of central presence to take the picture.
Yeah.
And it was only recently that I was going through some stuff, and it sort of popped up, and it was there, and you sort of see the head and part of the right arm, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no sort of wildman activity up until that period. So again, I don't know whether they were chased out or to suspect that there may have been one or two of them may have been eaten, but certainly from January, May time, there was quite a lot of wildman activity. So I had at least 2 or 3 really, really good encounters. The time when I was sat down just for a cuppa, and there was about 50 metres or more to my front, there was one that was knelt down, and then I noticed there was one that was stood up just to the left. And I got up to go towards it, and it gone.
Yeah.
And the last one I saw was that, like I said, the one that was just going along the path, hitting the trees with a stick. That was about 6 a.m. in the morning, and I whistled to it, and boom, gone.
Did you just go like that, and they're gone? They just vanish instantly.
Yeah.
The speed of him is unreal. Anybody who's interested in seeing the images that Mike is speaking about, I have put a link in the description, as I mentioned earlier, to the website, and you will find an album there. Just put in the search box, just put Mike or journal, and the album will pop up, and you can have a look at the images that we're speaking about now. I do remember it was around about June time, and other researchers will note this, that you were in the car and something dropped onto the car roof and down onto the bonnet.
Yeah, that was at Stafford.
That happens quite often to researchers out in the field, I must add. That gets mentioned a lot. And that was at the famous Thetford Forest, where I think we have 9 accounts down there now.
Yes, that was where, I think if you remember, I joined a farming forum.
Yep.
And I'd sort of put out an opening thread that, had anyone come across a shook or a grim.
Yeah.
And I sort of had about 14 responses, and there was 2 very good ones. One from a farmer, Deptford, and another farmer from Suffolk. But I tried reaching out to him, but he wouldn't sort of get back to me because he said the village where he lived, he said they'd, regarding the shook, he said some generations past they used to be quite aggressive towards the villagers, but recently they've been rather passive. And the chap in Thetford on his farm, he said early in the hours in the morning his cows just go nuts. And he says because basically you can see two of them coming out of the tree line when they go out on hunting expeditions.
Yeah.
And they leave his cows alone.
Right.
And I sort of pasted and copied the thread onto a Word document. I think I sent you a copy.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
So I was trying to get sort of an exact location for the farmer. And he wouldn't sort of give me an exact idea, but he said it was near MOD property. So there is a training ground there.
Yeah.
And so I kind of made a beeline for a general area. And as I say, there was 4 locations that I went to. And there was one where it was just like a pile of apples.
That was Thetford. They'd left you said that they'd left apples out on the road as though as if they'd been left there, and then later on you found some meat joints in the same area.
Yes, that was in another area. There was just like, I mean, they'd been cut up, but they'd been left for something.
I wanted to run a theory by you on that one, because if you remember, not this year, last year you found scat in one of the birthing areas, and I noted that this time, this year, you found scat at Thetford in the birthing area with apples and meat that had been left. So this is just my theory. So anybody out there who thinks I've got my tin foil out, I don't care, because this is how my brain works. What if you are correct and it is a birthing area and she is not moving well away from her area to leave scat? She's having to leave it quite close to the area and come back in, is my theory about it. I was thinking, why did they hide it all year round, and then at this time maybe she can't go far from the den? Yeah. As a woman, you know, you think about these questions. How would she see to the young and keep them safe? But obviously you have to move away to go and do what you need to do, and she would have to also empty that scat out of the den as well, wouldn't she?
Yes, yeah. I mean, most of the dens I find are clean.
Exactly. So that's an anomaly. It stands.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 big piles of poo found are sort of like more or less in the middle of the floor in the woods.
I know Alison Wilkinson has also found them in the Shropshire area. I can think quite Moulton in Yorkshire springs to mind as well for a similar thing. Almost human-like, but much, much larger. And normally, this is going to sound really strange to people out there, but almost as if a small hole is dug, the scat is within that hole and then it's kind of covered, almost. I found that when I've been out researching, which is just a strange thing. It's not really a human thing to do, is it? So it's just one of those anomalies. Thetford I remember because there are lots and lots of tree structures at Thetford, aren't there? There's lots of sign and smashed trees and teepees and all kind of things. But I remember you mentioning that you found a TV. I'm just looking on my notes to see where you said it wasn't an actual teepee. It was the trees, the grown trees had been manipulated into almost a pyramid. It was the day when the stones were thrown. Do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
I've seen that as well. Green trees manipulated to almost form a kind of shelter. So as the summer went on, you would be even more concealed. Normally, you mentioned them yourself, ivy dens. They end up as these like ivy den type structures, and then can disappear in a week. They can be gone. And I think you've noticed that, and older researchers have noticed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, the ivy den is sort of quite a common structure that I find in the sort of lodge area. And I mean, there are some proper built dens and shelters, and there was one where picture of that, and I went back the following week, and it was gone.
Ah.
Yeah. There was something. I'll dig it out, and I'll send you the pictures later.
Yeah.
But it literally like just tore the top of a tree off, and then turned it upside down. So it was like a structure, and there was something black, sort of inside it.
I know an area that you have been to, or quite close to, called Bilston in Wolverhampton, where a similar thing is an upside down turned tree, where the foresty tree bit is in the ground and the horrible root bits are in the top. And there are a number of photographs that have come out of there, and they're on my channel. And if you look for Laura Hadley in the playlist, you will see lots of very dark shapes hiding in the bushes. What looks like quite a large female and a young.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're on the channel, and that's not that far away from Cannock Chase, and you were there as well. You went out to Cannock, didn't you?
Yes, yeah, I did. There was a den right on the road going up to the German war cemetery.
Yeah.
There was a den just right there on the right. It was just brazenly out in the open. And when I was sat in the car park, having some coffee and sandwiches, there was another one just stuck its head up.
Yeah, you said just pointy ears, little pointy ears.
Yeah. I was trying. So like, do you want a sausage roll? I'll have the window open.
Right.
See if he'd come in.
Yeah, they won't get that close, will they? There's a new researcher out there actually in a similar area, and he's called G-Dog on YouTube. So I will put you in touch with him because he's in that area a lot of the time. And Steve Heavican, he's also in that area researching a similar area. There's a lot going on down there, and I don't just mean Cannock. You've got to come out of Cannock at least a good 10 or 15 mile, and the sightings are all around that, like the Rugeley area, Hayes Heath, Druids Moor, which brings me to a question that I'm sorry for diverging, because we've spoken about it before. I actually stumbled on something from that area there, and I've only just remembered, from Druids Heath up through Cannock and heading almost to the Peak Districts, on areas where the sightings are, there are old military of defence bunkers, like Drake Law. Let me think of the other one, it'll come to me in a minute. I've been working on the sighting from yesterday, where burial mounds have been disturbed in the building of them, and there are now reports of dog-faced men. And it's sprung to interest to me that I'll add the links into the description of the video, that it was areas where old Druid sites or old ancient burial sites had been damaged while building the tunnel systems. And me and you have this theory, don't we, that the dog-like, canid-like creatures actually protect burial grounds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start seeing on each one of the dogmen accounts on the map if I can find a burial ground very close and find out if any earthworks have gone on or anything like that. Because it's popped up, you know when something pops up, like when you buy a white car and then you see a white car consistently? This dogman burial thing and military defence land and tunnels keeps popping up over and over and over again. Thetford, as you spoke about, old military defence land. RAF Alconbury, we've got dog-like creatures there reported over 30 years. Bempton, all that strange stuff going on at RAF Bempton, all got old druidic sites on there. And it just, I can't remember it. How, was it the Native Americans that said that the canid ones protected burial sites? Right.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple of, I think 1 or 2 episodes on with the Cundiff where, you have some people sort of going past a cemetery. Yeah. And they're sort of in there.
Well, at Cannock, at Cannock you've got Castle Ring, which is an old burial site. You've got the German cemetery itself. And it must have been important to us way back, because I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it was 800 years ago or something like that the Castle Ring was built. And there have been reportings of dog-like entities on that area since then, since way back in time. And I think we've just lost the history of him, kind of thing. But when you've got areas like Druids Heath, I mean, if that doesn't scream out to you that at one point it was an ancient site, I don't know what would. And there are a lot of dogman, canid type reports around those areas, and I just wonder if there's a correlation of sorts. It might be something me and you can look into further when we're out and about, because I can actually, there's a great map out there actually, and it's called the Megalithic Portal Map, and there's a guy called Andy runs it, and every ancient site, standing stone, megalith, anything like that out there in the UK is actually on there. So I can look where a sighting area is and see where the nearest barrow is by putting them, by overlaying them.
Yeah.
So that's something I could do with Nani Woods, Chasey Heath, all of the places that you visit. We can have a look and see if there's any ancient sites on.
I mean, there is. At Maple Durham, which isn't far, there's an old sort of Tudor country estate right on the Thames. I mean, I don't know which family owned it.
Right.
But, most of the woods, there's a lot of, I would suspect, maybe 70, 80 years ago, there was some sort of establishment buildings where the woods are.
Yeah.
There are brick structures and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found anything that sort of states what these structures were. But, I mean, there's an awful lot of concrete and red brick.
Sounds all military, doesn't it? Like some World War II kind of installation.
Yeah, so whether it's sort of abandoned after the war, I really don't know. It's one of the things on my to-do list. There was certainly some sort of structures there.
I started having a look into it in the week because I knew we were going to be speaking, and I was amazed when I thought, I wonder, I'll have a look and see how many of them are on I'm on MOD land, and there's lots of them on MOD land. And it's almost like a lot of the old MOD land is now nature reserves, which is even more, which to me would encourage us visiting those areas, because it would speak of military defence land. No one's on it for years and years and years. Nobody's been allowed on it other than military. Now it's a nature reserve, so why would they not use it? It seems ideal. And then you've got all these natural caverns below, and then man-made tunnel systems that run from Dorking Deep Dean all the way through Drakelaw and carry on going up the country. And then Nottinghamshire is riddled with caves. Where I live in the northwest, with cave systems, mines underneath us. There's all kinds of ancient barrows and stuff going on that we really, in this 2021 lifestyle, that we don't realise, do we? We're just like 21st century people, and we don't realise that we're on ancient ground sometimes. And it does play in, because Forest of Dean, for example, you've been to the Forest of Dean on your research. You've seen dens, so there's young there. And there's no more ancient site in the UK than the Forest of Dean. It's pristine, isn't it? When you're down that area, it's absolutely pristine nature. It's beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my sister, she's a regional nurse down there, because I want to stay with her.
Yeah.
And she noticed all these structures and what have you, and she's actually taken a picture, and there was one of these structures there was something really jet black, but it had golden eyes.
Wow, right, yeah. Heard that before.
Yeah, and that was right next to the footpath.
Like an amberish golden eye.
Yeah, I went up to Rockington National. Anyway, it's a national park of some description. And all the dens, you park up, and there's like a central wooded roundabout, because there's two paths, one going off to the left, one to the right, where you can walk out into the countryside. It's really beautiful. And all the dens are in the car park. Right next to where the park. And that's where I got a picture of one crouched down, and it was sort of like beige, brown and white, but it had this huge black eye. Really, and you can see the nose.
Yeah.
And right opposite, there's a horse and pony.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Refuge,
yeah.
For abused horses and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah, there'd be a lot of food there.
Because I'm looking at the horses' ribs and that, see if there's any scratch marks on them.
Yeah.
But I know they have a tendency to attack horses.
there is incidents of that in Epping Forest, of slash marks down a horse's flanks that somebody reported. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. Definitely, yeah, that was Epping Forest, another place where there's lots of burial sites and strange areas going on. They seem to fit a pattern, these areas, where you get cases of kids that are chased out of the woods or frightened by something, like by growls or like the snort that you heard, that kind of thing. But on a much bigger level, to get you running. And the ancient old sites are in there, and this spooky kind of woods where we have this, don't go in at night, you hear these like screaming ladies or whatever. Well, to a Bigfoot researcher or a werewolf, someone who's researching werewolves, you're thinking, owls and screams, that's where I'm headed. I'm going there because that's what we want. We want a bit of audio, as well as everything else. So they seem to be dotted around the country, these little hotspot areas that we wouldn't think really of going to look at, and they're pulling in some decent evidence where I'm thinking I'm getting more out of these areas than I'm getting coming out of the peaks, because people are noticing things now. How many times I'm told by people, I was going along in the car and I looked over at the side of the motorway and there was a flipping teepee, or there was an upturned tree, or there's a number of people got in touch with me by email or through YouTube, and they've said that they've been going through areas. Lancaster, for instance, is a prime example. Crypto Angel got in touch with me and said, I was passing the area and there was a tree that had just been, like one huge tree put between two trees, so like a bar gate. And Darren Howard and Danielle Agolio went up there, and they found loads of signs, and it was right on the side of Lancaster Uni. So you've got a really steep embankment, there's all these food bins, and it was where the cafeteria was, and you could use that route to go all the way to Bowland, Forest to Bowland, which is a huge area.
I've just had, I sent you a couple taken from the 24th, 25th of this, November, and I told you about how there's I've seen a couple of them in the back garden now. Mm-hmm. I've seen yellow eyes shine, red eyes shine. Yeah. And I thought, well, okay, maybe they sort of followed me home and, they're keeping an eye. Anyway, at the end of the garages where I parked my car, I just caught it when I was coming home one night from work. Yeah. There's a den right next to the garages.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of them there. So no more than about 20 metres from my front door, there's a den with two of them.
You'd be amazed how many times that comes up.
Take pictures of them, and one's got you can see the iris.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, you said what did you call him? You had, was it Scruffy or something like that? You had a name for him.
Yeah, I've got one called Fluffy.
That's it, Fluffy. Yeah.
And I've got one I call Golden Eyes, and this one I call One Eye.
Well, you think they would follow us home, wouldn't they? I mean, we go into their homes, and we must cause an amount of curiosity kind of thing. And it does crop up for anyone out there saying it's impossible. I'm telling you now, some of the world's biggest Bigfoot researchers will tell you that they find sign at home. A lot of people contact me because they're really worried about it, and they'll I remember one researcher, she wasn't worried about it. It was really funny, she thought. They'd left 3 huge boulders on the drive overnight. So she went to bed at the night with her husband, and when she got up the next day, there was 3 huge stone boulders in the middle of the drive, and they couldn't get the car out or anything, and she thought it was hysterical, and her husband didn't find it that funny. And she found a den, and it actually, when she got in the den and looked, it overlooked her house. I found a similar thing. I actually tracked footprints. My daughter did it for me. We went down to the wood where I research, and I'm not good on my legs, as you know. And I said to my daughter, look at that print. And when you've got like a mossy, peaty ground and you stand on it and the print fills up with water? Yes. It was still filling up with water as I said it. And I said to her, that's really strange, because put your foot in the ground quick, Erica, and see how quick it fills up. And she did the same. And we must have been right on the tail of whatever was there. So she followed the footprints, and they went across this really swampy area, and it's posted, it says danger, deep water and all that, keep out, because they're old mine shaft, it's old mine land. So she skirts that, picks them up on the other side of it, and they go up the railway embankment and keep going, and when you get to the end of it and you looked over the railway embankment, that's my house. And it, we will like, and anyone you want, you ask my husband, ask my daughter, I'll even get them to give you a taped interview about it if you like. There's actual video on my channel of it, and I say, oh my lord, look at the footprint. And it was the fact that it filled up and I thought, that's just instant, that we've clearly walked into something, and that's the area where we get these big thuds in the ground when we're down there. It's like almost like the ground shakes. And what you call ghosting, I've seen with my naked eye, this almost predator. It's like I don't know how to describe it, because there's nothing there, but the air kind of moves.
Yes.
Sometimes you can... Oh, how do I describe it? I've had like this rush of air as if something has run past me so fast, and it's almost knocked me off my feet. But you can see a movement. The only thing I could describe it with is that predator in the film, but not as CGI as that, more natural and fluid. And I have witnesses from all over the country speak about that.
Yeah, I tend to look at the shadows on the ground, or I just get very... sometimes the air gets a bit still, and then I don't know, I just feel something's near me, and I just point the camera on my phone in that direction, and it's there. But sometimes what they'll do, they'll just say there's a branch on the wood floor, like, and I just step on it, snap. Yeah. To sort of say I'm over here.
I get you, that distraction thing.
Get your attention. Or if I have, say more often than not, it's just, I just get this sense of something's either close by or it's behind me.
Yeah, I
or
get
it's
you.
in front of me.
Yeah, you can,
it just sense it.
It's just strange. It's almost as if there's a number of theories, isn't there? There's the moving energy theory. Then there's the one that I like about the hair, where it's something about the hair that enables them to have like an almost invisible ghillie suit somehow, because that's what it looks like. And then there's the fact that people think that they are sentient beings, so they would be able to do that, or if they were dimensional, they would be. They might be all of the above and more, for all we know. But to me, it could be this natural camouflage.
Yes.
That it bounces back the light and enables. There's a lot of people, before people think I'm going crackers, there is a lot of research being done into this by scientists at NASA using it in warfare. A way of bending spectrum light, or giving something that's like a ghillie suit of thousands of fibres that bounces the reflection back, so you wouldn't see it, you would only see the movement of it. And that's what people are reporting. The Henley tree snapper, he said it went through those trees. This is a man who's a tree surgeon. He said it was snapping branches, you could see the branches snapping, but you couldn't see what it was moving. Exactly the same at Dark and Deep, Dean. It was going through those trees, but you couldn't see it. And it gets mentioned over and over and over again. And I'm really glad we're talking about it, because people just push it to one side as if it's an impossibility. It's not. If it's within the realms of science, then somebody else, more natural, thought about it a lot longer than us. Maybe it's a natural... I don't know, DNA-wise or something, I'm not sure.
Well, is it octopus that can camouflage them?
Exactly that, natural camouflage. I think Alison said hair is a poor man's fur. It's much easier to evolve, that was the word I was looking for, to evolve hair to suit your needs over generation than it is fur. So if they were head to toe covered in hair, which is what we report on the daytime sightings, can they adapt that hair in a certain way? Or is it the oil on that hair? Is it the follicle on that hair? I don't know. There seems to be talk of a number of hair samples that have no medulla running through the middle. So they would be almost human-like, but the humans have a medulla that runs through the middle of the hair, and those samples at Berkeley don't, and they can't account for them, and they're not cut at the end. They are tapered, and we've had a similar hair come out of Malden in Yorkshire, and it looks like human hair, but it's a lot longer, and it's curled, and it's tapered. It's not been cut. So you're thinking that's never had a haircut. Whatever that hair's come off, you know, has never had a haircut. We might be dealing with a natural camouflage out there.
I really think it is. I mean, the juvenile I took pictures of. The first thing, it was backed up against a tree, but I could definitely see the right leg.
Yeah.
It was stretched out, and so obviously I just thought, mate, because it was like really jet black.
Yeah.
And obviously the way the shadow was and the way the bright sunlight behind it in the open field, where the wood sort of stopped and the field started.
Yeah.
And but whatever it was, he was like trying to learn.
Right.
It wasn't like it seemed to me
practicing.
It's not like something they can do. Right, I'm born. Let's go. I'm invisible.
Right, you have to practice it.
They have to learn to do.
Yeah, like fledging for a bird. There's a natural ability that has to be learned, almost a muscle memory kind of thing. Yeah, that would make perfect sense, wouldn't it? It's just amazing. They are these. When you think about it, they are amazing, aren't they? If it is just a natural gene or something like that, or extra chromosome or something, whatever it is that does it, it's an amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even when I did try. I did make sort of 4 short videos over a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was sat in the car doing my final summation, and there was one just making a hell of a noise, no more than a few feet from the car.
Right.
And I'm sort of saying, if you can hear that, it's just letting me know it's there.
Right.
And eventually, I mean, I couldn't see it, but the thing was, no more than about probably less than 10 feet. You know, it's kind of got its head sticking out through some bushes. So I managed to get a picture of that, and then it was just a video to show, like the general lodge area.
Yeah.
And the like. And on one occasion, when I went back to sort of like do a follow up, I mean, I've had literally like bushes, only like 2-3 foot tall, and they're just waving back and forth, and there's no wind, there's nothing.
Right, yeah, I get what you mean, yeah. That's, it's in Bigfoot Tony's video that he caught in Wales. That's what drew our attention. It was one tree that moved, and I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I had it happen to me last year, and this is when there was something tracking me on my left, and I think basically, he got so impatient with me, he just started moving these big bushes to sort of say, well, I tried stomping around, that didn't work.
Yeah, tried that, that didn't work, yeah.
Like these bushes to get your attention.
Yeah, it could also be a juvenile show of strength kind of thing, or maybe a warning to others that, hang on a minute, there's a human around, stop, everybody look like a tree for a moment. There's an account on Longridge Fell, and the lady there speaks of them looking like a tree until she caught the side of it. I think what she meant was the same colour as a tree and kind of blended in with the tree until she caught the movement. It's normally the same for me, the movement that catches your eye that makes you zone in on that eye, and then you can't ever not see it again. And with you, like, you are so used to seeing these ears, the dark ears that pop up, it'd be much easier for you to see each time, I would imagine. I wonder how many I've walked past and never ever noticed that. Because, you know what I mean, you don't think about it at the time, do you?
Well, it's got to the stage now where I go to the den area, and they'll just, you'll see a sort of large black canine head pop out from underneath the tree line. Yeah. Or where the den, the den is. And they just go quickly back in. And I'm actually convinced now that when they're sort of ghosting, that birds and dogs actually can't smell them.
Right, yeah.
Or sense them.
Yeah, I would agree. There is the rhododendron theory. Me and me hiding in rhododendron bushes. Dogs don't come near you, and normally a dog will come and snip out another human. And they don't bother with you if you sat in a rhododendron bush for some strange reason. And people probably think we're daft doing that. But we have to, as a researcher, you yourself think, I can go 2 steps in and disappear here. So if I just sit down here, can people walk past me? And we've all done it, haven't we, out in the field?
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do. Humans are genuinely blinkered when they're out there, and they just walk past us, don't they, normally? You see, I have only ever seen probably about 10 people in all the years I've done that, and they were general dog walkers. It's not, you can go to your area loads of times and see no one, and then you'll see the odd dog walker go by, every now and again. Yeah, like you remember the grey wolf found when you the old woman. Yeah, I've done that. I can't be honest, I've done that. I was out with my daughter. Oh God, it must be about 8.
Yeah, I really thought, oh my God, this is it. This is the big one.
That's it. You see something to the corner of your eye, and you think, oh no, and thank God it's a dog when it comes like tracing past you. But yeah, I've done the same. I think we've all done it. They spook you all the time, don't they? And birds are sods for it. I remember Chris, getting a scared of his life when he was early researching, and that was a bird. As he steps over a bush, it just took off in front of him. That happens on a lot of occasions.
Oh yeah, I mean, even when a rabbit bolts.
Well, then I'd be thinking, what made it? What made that movie? It's the same with deer. When you see deer running, you instantly think, what are they running from? Yeah.
That's happened to me twice.
I was going to say, you've had experience of that, haven't you? When the deer's just suddenly, they're not scared of you, it's something else that they're scared of.
Yeah. I kind of stood waiting to see what comes out.
Yeah.
But whatever is chasing them, they're seeing me and stop.
Yeah, and stop.
I've seen, like I say, I've seen one from last November where it dropped out of a tree.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
I went off to the right and took a deer.
Yeah.
I've been walking around the tree and they've been above me the whole time.
We're finding deer kills out there, aren't we? You've found a number of strange kills. I know I have. Bones and things like that.
This kind of really hit me. I thought, in all the years I've been doing this, I've never seen any rabbits.
Oh, yeah.
I just think, well, plenty of squirrel. I know they go after pheasant.
Of course they would, yeah.
That one from 12th of February last year, it was chasing a pheasant and he got hold of it. And I just heard the bones just crunch.
Yeah, exactly. I would imagine rabbits real.
It just suddenly hit me that, the other day, it's just like, there's no rabbits.
Might be really easy to catch because they are for most humans. Yeah, you can't live on a diet of rabbit because there's no fat on them. You do have to have, you'd have to have the odd game bird or squirrel or something like that. You need no fat on a rabbit, but they're nice. I'm sorry for all the vegans out there, but I live in the north and I grew up on rabbit stew and rabbit pie, and it's a nice meat. It tastes like chicken. So why not?
Do you remember when I told you about that? I actually had a picture of one in the top of a tree.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I found it, and I think I sent you that.
I do.
You should be in some of the emails I sent you, and I was so happy. And then the one time I took my wife up to Nani Woods, and again I just casually looking through them, and actually where she stood, I'm taking pictures. In 2 photos, there's actually something in the tree right behind her.
It does bring up the tip, doesn't it? That always have a look back through your stuff. Maybe a month or 2 later, or a year or 2 later, have a look back, because you'll have learnt so much more in that time without thinking, and you'll have your eye in by then, if you get what I mean. I walked in the early days past so much evidence and not seeing it because I didn't know what it was at the time, if you get what I mean. Sounds now that I instantly recognise, I wouldn't have no idea back then, and it just pays to go back through your old stuff you know, every now and again.
yeah.
Because you a number of times, I know there's lots of researchers. I know John, it's the same when he goes back. He can go back and look at his work and usually find something that he missed at the time. So it's always worth doing it. That's why we tell them to journal, innit, really? So they know what's happening at what time of year. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so I was really happy I found that, 'cause I thought I'd deleted it, and I was just like really punching myself about it.
Oh, I remember. So yeah, I do remember that because you said, I know it's there, and I've gone through it and through it and through it, and that's happened to us as other people as well. So it's turned up now.
Yes. Yeah. I think I'll send you a copy.
Yeah, I've got. What I'm going to do is I've done everything. I'm going to make the album tonight and put all of the photographs in so people can see not just the ones that we're talking about tonight, but from day one, because it's easy enough for me to do that because I've got them all. So they'd be able to look and see what's happened over the years gone by, kind of thing. They'll be able to see through the seasons as things have changed. So I think that'll be more helpful. So that's what we were discussing before we came on air. We were discussing the fact that we will go back through the old journals and I'll update them and we'll get you talking about them in a more in-depth way. And we'll do more like this where you can tell us yourself what's happening on the ground, because I think it gives people a much better idea of what it's like when you're out there and how you go about things if they hear it from the person themselves. Which tonight brings us to a halt, but don't go away because we've got some private stuff to talk about, haven't we? So until next time, thank you very much to everybody out there and to Mike himself, and I hope you enjoy the journals, everybody. Good night.